Meghan really said if there was anything she could do differently, she would ask people to tell the truth. Really? There's nothing you regret doing? You would ask other people to do things differently? Talk about avoiding accountability. We're going to talk about all that and more in this video, but before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. The article is titled, Meghan and Harry Broke People I Know. Some former employees say they have PTSD after her incendiary lie claim. Why Meghan's truth is far from the truth about what happened at the palace. The article begins, there's their truth, and then there's the truth. A royal insider once told me, and I'm not sure it's the kind of truth that Meghan Sussex, as she now prefers to be known, has alluded to in her latest publicity blitz. Before we continue, I have an unpopular opinion here. I don't believe in the phrase my truth. Truth, by definition, isn't subjective. There may be different perspective, feelings, or experiences, but truth itself, there's only one version. That's what makes it the truth. When someone says my truth, what they're often describing is their perception or their justification. And while emotions matter, they don't rewrite reality. The moment we start treating every version of events as equally valid, even when they contradict each other, we lose our grip on what's real, and that opens the door to manipulation, where the loudest voice or the most polished narrative wins and not the facts. The article then continues to describe an interview that Meghan did yesterday, and she was asked, if you could rewrite your public narrative from scratch, is there anything you would do differently? Giving a look that can only be described as pointed, Meghan replies, yes, I would ask people to tell the truth. Notice how she's not reflecting inward. She doesn't point to a moment of personal misjudgment or acknowledge any misstep that she might have taken. Instead, she says, yes, I would ask other people to tell the truth. That's not introspection, that's projection. Rather than examining what she might have contributed to the public's perception, she places responsibility entirely on everybody else. The implication is clear. If only people had told the truth about me, everything would be different. Later in the article, it continues and says, peaks and valleys, replies Meghan graciously. Of course, I've gone through those chapters and you do a lot of work and you do a lot of self-work and you go, what's the why? It's happening for a reason. She added naturally that her dear friend, tennis champion Serena Williams, told her a lie can't live forever, concluding, 8 years is a long time, but not forever. 8 years ago would make it 2017. This is when Meghan first really appeared on the world stage as Harry's girlfriend. Their relationship was outed at the end of October in 2016. So I think you can count 2016 as very minimal, but really what she's referring to is as soon as she came out as Harry's girlfriend. And this is, in my opinion, that's what she's referring to. She's implying that either people lied about her 8 years ago or lies have continued to happen for the last 8 years. She doesn't name the lie. This is ambiguity weaponized. This keeps the public on edge, guessing, speculating, filling in the blanks. This is narrative control through insinuation, and we've seen Meghan do this many times. And a lot of the time she does it, she's putting the blame on the royal family's doorstep. I'm going to jump forward a little bit ahead in this article, and it says, Meghan also claimed in the same interview that she could not be expected to stay silent if the firm is playing a part in perpetuating falsehoods about her and Prince Harry. She's creating a false binary. Either you believe her version or you're helping the firm lie. This is an emotional coercion tactic and is often seen in narcissistic dynamics where disagreement is cast as betrayal. Article later says, sensationally, explosive allegations include the claim that Meghan bullied members of staff and drove out 2 female employees when she was a working royal. Meghan, through her lawyers, has strongly and repeatedly denied the claims and suggested they were part of a concerted campaign to smear her. So this is the flip side of Meghan playing the victim role. where accountability is reframed as persecution. When multiple people share similar experiences but are instantly discredited as being part of a campaign, it suggests deflection and grandiosity. It's a refusal to acknowledge or to even consider personal fault. The article then says, but 4 years after Buckingham Palace carried out an investigation into the claims, the results of the probe have never been made public. The accusations remain a matter of public record. Other former employees who refer to themselves half jokingly as the Sussex Survivors Club have spoken of having PTSD after working for the couple. Others I know say they feel professionally and personally broken. That phrase, Survivors Club, it paints a picture of emotional fallout. If Megan's public identity is built around truth and compassion, this contrast is sharp. Narcissists often build curated public images that are incompatible with how they treat people privately. That dissonance is what former staff appear to be hinting at. The last section of this article I want to read says many royal insiders cannot fathom why Meghan continues to worry away at this running sore, despite claiming that she is now in her chapter of joy and is finally able to be her authentic self, hence why she posted the bizarre video of herself twerking before the birth of her daughter. Because a narcissist narrative can never end, it must be repeated, reinforced, and controlled. Even years later, the same talking points are revived, not to resolve them, but to keep control of the storyline. This keeps Meghan centered in the public discourse. I want to close out this article with the top 3 narcissistic traits I noticed in this article. And then I want to give you some tips on how to spot it in your own life and steps you can take to protect yourselves from this or to break the spell. The first one is narrative control. It feels like all the time when we talk about Meghan, there's so much talk about narrative control and image control. And it's because narcissists need to control how others perceive them. That often means spinning events, omitting details, or using emotionally charged language to redirect focus. In this article specifically, we heard Meghan say 2 things that line up with this narrative control. The first is, yes, I would ask people to tell the truth. And the second is, 8 years is a long time, but it's not forever. These statements position her as the wronged truth teller while never specifying the actual lie, the timeline, or the person involved. That's not truth seeking, that's narrative control by ambiguity. This trait is about owning the narrative while avoiding the risk of being fact checked. It keeps her in the position of victim while others are left guessing what they're being accused of. Essentially, they spin the story so that only their version matters. So, how can you recognize it? If you encounter someone that retells events with strategic omissions or vague details, or they never admit fault but imply others are to blame, or their version of events always centers them as the morally right person or the misunderstood person, you may have encountered this. And what you can do to counteract this is, first of all, write down your own version of events so that you can trust your own memory and go back and look at this. A lot of times, and I've noticed in my own life, I can fall prey to suggestive language. So, for example, I will know exactly what happened, and I guess I can just be easily gaslit into thinking something else completely happened. So, this is a very important point. I do this all the time. When you walk away from these situations, write it down as soon as you can so that you can go back and look and remember your version and your perspective. The other thing you can do is when they talk about something ambiguously, ask them for specifics. So in Megan's example, she is implying that people have lied to her. So the question to her would be, what lie are you referring to? The second narcissistic trait I recognize here is gaslighting by omission. This is when a person presents just enough truth to sound credible, but deliberately withholds key facts, allowing others to feel confused, disoriented, or guilty for questioning them. In this article, it shows up when Meghan says, a lie can't live forever. It also shows up when Meghan is repeatedly using a passive voice without naming the accuser or specifying the lie. The vagueness becomes a psychological weapon. It pressures others to confess or respond to a story that hasn't even been clearly stated. It creates emotional pressure and disempowerment, which are common tools in narcissistic manipulation. Essentially, they let you doubt yourself without ever saying anything outright. It could show up in your life when you feel confused or guilty, but you can't put your finger on why. This person may drop cryptic or vague comments and leave you spinning. And you're always the one trying to clarify or figure things out. And this is how you can counter it. Don't fill in the blanks for them, make them say it. You can say to them directly if you feel safe doing so. If you have something to say it directly. And then you can also practice what's called reality anchoring, where you ask yourself, what do I know to be true and what information is missing? You are not confused. You are being deliberately kept in the dark. And the final narcissistic trait I recognize in this article is victimhood as image management. Narcissists often paint themselves as the perpetual victim, not just to gain sympathy, but to deflect criticism and weaponize morality. In this article, it showed up as if the firm is playing a part in perpetuating falsehoods. Her invocation of trauma, betrayal, and injustice without providing context or evidence is an example of this victimhood as image management. This trait reframes all criticism as cruelty. Any attempt to hold her accountable becomes further proof that she's being attacked. It's a self reinforcing narrative loop. By always returning to the victim role without offering receipts, she distances herself against scrutiny and casts doubt on everyone else's character. In your own life, this might seem like they turn every conflict into an attack against them. And here are some tips on how to recognize it. They always position themselves as the hurt one, even when they're the ones that caused the harm. They use phrases like, I'm just trying to be honest after saying something harmful. And they weaponize sympathy to avoid being questioned. And here are some ways to counteract it. Don't let tears or vulnerability override patterns. Look at behavior over time. Ask yourself, are they genuinely seeking resolution? And set a boundary. You can say to them, I understand you feel hurt, but that doesn't excuse how I was treated. Sympathy is powerful, but it should never replace accountability. I'm curious to know what you all think about this. Please drop it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether it's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is here on the screen if you need to contact them, and you'll find a link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps and it means a lot. If this video was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. I want to thank you so much for listening and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.